Journal of Excellence, Episode 10. Lately, I've been thinking quite a bit about idleness, about the times in my life where I was not as active, as proactive, as engaging as I could have been. I believe I mentioned back on episode 1 about how I can see that line. I can see the line of choices that eventually got me to a pretty dark and bad place. And a very common thread, a very common appearance of those choices were when I chose inaction, when I chose idleness, when I chose the easiest or the easier path. And thinking about why I made the choices that I did, it always came down to the ease of it. Because forward motion, action, taking action, it's hard. It's difficult. You kind of putting yourself at the mercy of the unknown when you make that choice. But thinking about the outcome, whether you choose the easy road, you choose idleness, choose the easy road versus choosing that unknown mystery through that forward action, that forward momentum, I can tell you that, well, let me tell you a story. Not too long ago, I put myself I decided to run a race. Now, I'm a big fan of trail running. I like getting out in the mountains, out in the wilderness, and instead of pounding pavement, I like hitting the trails. And this particular race was a trail run, a trail race. This one also just so happened to take place during the night, be a night race. The start time was midnight. Now, it was a 30-kilometer race, which comes out to about 18 miles-ish, dead of night. And it consisted of 3 loops up in northern Arizona. And after the race started, I found myself at the front of the pack. And once we got through that first loop, I actually found myself in first place. Now, I should say here, if you run trail, if you've participated in trail races, you know. This isn't like a city marathon. You don't have hundreds or thousands of people out there running. Trail running is still this kind of tucked away, hidden niche. It's almost still undiscovered. That or you just have to be crazy to do it. And so the field for this race, it's not like there was a ton of people. And I should also mention that because this race was taking place in the middle of the night, that means that there are even less participants. But for what it's worth, I found myself in first place a third of the way through this race. And when I overtook the leader, all of a sudden in my mind, I wanted to win. I wanted to win this race. Up till then, for me, it had always been about finishing the race or doing my personal best. But this was the first time where I'm in a race competing with other athletes and I want to win. And I find myself in that position to win. And so I started pushing myself. I still had a fair number of miles to go. More than 10 miles to go. But I wanted to win. And so I started pushing myself. I started running faster and clocking miles that were way quicker than I typically ran. And I finished my second loop, and I was still in first place, and I had a bit of a lead on the person who was in second place. They were about 3 or 4 minutes behind me. Now, in these trail races, they have these aid stations along the path, along the course, and they'll have water so you can rehydrate. They'll have salt capsules and other kind of foods and snacks that you can go on to kind of recharge your body, refuel your body. And typically, when I would get to one of these aid stations, I'd stop, I'd refill my water, I'd chat with the volunteers that were helping, and I'd grab some of the food, and then I'd kind of mosey on out of there. But because I was in first place, because I wanted to win, I just ran past these aid stations. I wanted to win, and I was pushing myself hard. And because I was pushing myself hard, I was starting to hurt. Now, fast forward, and I'm probably a quarter mile away from the finish line. I can hear the music. I can see the lights through the trees. I know that I'm close. And then my body rebelled against me. I cramped up. My legs seized on me. And it hurt so bad. I screamed. I fell face down in the middle of the trail, face in the dirt, clutching my legs, rolling around, just yelling because of how much it hurt. And while I'm rolling around yelling, all I can think is, get up, get up. He's coming. He's going to pass you. You're going to lose. And somehow I managed to pick myself up off the ground, and I managed to hobble my way that last quarter mile painfully across the finish line. And I got first place. And the gentleman who was in second place was less than 60 seconds behind. Thinking about that night, I realized that the easiest thing to do would have been to just lay down in the trail and give up, throw in the towel, and to just come up with whatever excuse, whatever justification would appease my mind. The harder thing to do definitely was to get up and to get to that finish line. When you realize that it can hurt. It hurts when we take action. It hurts when we're building up that forward momentum, that forward motion. It hurts going into that unknown. But pushing past the discomfort, pushing past the pain is absolutely critical to obtaining what we want. Critical. And thinking about all of the things that I want, the goals that I have. Like that night, I saw myself crossing the finish line. I saw myself holding that trophy, and I pushed myself hard, practically to the breaking point to get there. And despite the discomfort, despite the pain, I made it. I crossed that finish line. And thinking about what would have happened if I had given up, man, I can tell you that I know it's hard. I know it's hard for me, but dang it, is it